We hired a designer to do design and then ultimately sales. And we're starting to, that lull is like, so there's a huge spike in payroll with little to no change to productivity. And because of how technical we are as a business, it might be that way for 90 days before they're really running and gunning. And it's like, how do you pay for that? And the answer is, I don't know. It's like, we're going to just keep selling and we're going to keep figuring it out. And the system side of it is like, I think is the last thing to unlock to really make this thing a sustainable, well-oiled machine to an extent.
Yeah. And I commend you for realizing that. And also this mindset or framework of, we're just going to figure it out. It's just a huge part of the mentality that carries you through so much of this stuff that you're just like, well, I don't know, man, but you have to just keep moving and taking action. And sure, you'll make mistakes. We always say, mistakes are tuition, one of my favorite lines. And that's how you build something great. You're not afraid to get out there, figure it out, make those mistakes, but also you're smart enough to embrace best practices. This just, 2-second lean thing. Great. You got to do that. I know you've hired a coach recently. That's what's the name of the coach? John, what's his last name?
John Cipher.
Cipher.
Yeah.
He's written a book called Output Thinking. And I think that's, reaching out to help, whether you're reading the books or hiring these guys to come out. It's just the next evolution of your business. And I think it's a testament to success that you actually have time to think that way.
I think it's also, I've realized, because I tried a business coach. He was more like a fractional CFO. It's how he branded on Twitter. Yeah. I won't say his name, but used him for, I think, 4 months. It was like 10 grand. I got no value from it. The guy and it was really nothing against him. He just didn't possibly know enough about our business, and he was coaching in a way that like you needed to. Where John is great because John is like, his concepts apply to business as a whole. It doesn't really matter if you're a cabinet shop. He did video rental, which is totally obsolete now. Like there's all these, so he's really good at articulating that. And because even though I'm not in the shop, I'm very much still in the business, and it's hard to have that kind of visibility from business as a whole, almost as like a game. Yeah. And somebody like John Shannon, I'm sure yourself with your coaching, you kind of provide that insight and that visibility. And I think but I think you need to be, as an entrepreneur, you need to be in a certain phase of your journey to be open and willing to even hear those concepts. Absolutely. I think if you approached me 4 years ago when I was still making tables, you would have been speaking Spanish to me. I wouldn't have even known, what you're talking about. So it's kind of like catching people in the right phase.
Yeah, that's a good point. And okay. And so last question really for me is, I met you up through X, and you're, building up there, talk about that and the value that you're getting out of it beyond, I'll prompt you, but I know you would say this anyway, beyond just building your brand and followers. Talk about that part of your, the last 6 months.
I think the brand and the followers is purely a byproduct of the process of being on X. So I got on there because, Dave, like we were mentioning earlier, that the grinding phase, the process of kind of seizing opportunity and going through what it takes to get somewhere is not a pretty process. And as a result of that, and I think everybody's human, like there's no outlet for that either. Like, where do I go? My wife can only listen to the same problems every single day, and I love her, but she's just like, she asked me how my day was cautiously. Yeah, and so
of course,
I also don't want to bring home all the problems. So like, I'd rather bring problems to the other people that can relate to those problems. And I had been on X for a couple of years. I found SMB kind of community, little pocket, and that's ultimately how we did the Growth Madness thing in the group. But all of a sudden, I started posting about some of the challenges of the day-to-day grind, and it almost became this therapeutic process for me, because I got enough engagement back of other people either going through it at the same exact time I was, people who had gone through it and could offer some advice, or somebody that was maybe before that was like, hey, I think I'm going to be there in like 6 months. Like, how'd you navigate this thing? And that, so it all of a sudden became this breeding ground for connection, for people just doing something similar, even if it was a totally different business. And that connection is just purely what has kept me coming back. And the viral hits are fun, but I like just the providing more value and frankly, not even trying to do anything, just post about, what's going on in my world and, who else has something similar to relate to.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's it for me. We that collaboration and meeting other people that are either going through what you've already gone through to help out, or you're helping them out. It's a big deal. It's a huge resource, I think, for everybody. Using it in a positive way. I'm not a huge fan of social media for all the negatives that come of it, but this is certainly a positive. So, dude, that's great.
I think X is probably one of the last places that you can share stuff like that before, because everything else is a highlight reel, right? So X, even though it's changed a bit, it's still about the most authentic place you could be right now.
That's a good point. Yeah,
I think it. I don't want to derail us, but I think there's plenty of stuff on X that is completely inauthentic. However,
for sure.
And I think that's true of all social media.
Yeah.
I think you can, if you craft your whatever it is, you're following your environment on any given platform, you can find value.
Well, that's what I learned from you, Dave, because I had ignored it. I ignored it forever.
Yeah.
And he was like, "You're doing it wrong. You just have to." And I was like, "Really?" And then once I started messing around with it late last year, I was like, "Oh, he's right. I mean, it's super valuable, and you can read."
You just got to ignore the noise because it is built to attract you with the things that you hate.
Yeah.
Right, and you've got to just not give into that at all, and that will eventually fine tune it. Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Well, Alex, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Someday I'll have you do my kitchen, and we'll build some cabinets in California, and follow along. We'll put Alex's X handle in the show notes, and coming up to Business Brain, follow along as we meet some awesome entrepreneurs. Follow along with all of us. So thank you for coming again, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. A ton of fun.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to meet you, and thanks for, answering all our crazy questions. We love digging into this stuff, as you can probably tell. So, it's great.
I could talk all day about this.
Yeah. So. Thanks for hanging out, folks. If you have any questions for us, of course, you can find us on X, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on LinkedIn, and you can email us feedback@businessbrain.show. In fact, just go to businessbrain.show. That's going to be the best place to find us. We'll see you there. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next week. And we're out. Cool.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to end the stream real quick.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody.
Thanks for hanging out. All right.
Yeah.